We are officially rolling.
All right. Stevenson
Here we
Everett, how you
go.
doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. Round two, brother.
Round two, my friend. Glad to have you back.
Dude, I appreciate it.
How's life treating you?
Oh, life's good. Living the dad life. Just bought a new minivan, you know.
Oh my
so
God.
that's we're in it. My fourth one.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's see. That was last week, and just got a new album coming out tomorrow. I know we'll talk about all this coming up, but I'm
ahead.
good, brother. I'm good.
Go ahead. Tell me all about it.
Oh man, tomorrow. Well, if you're watching this, it'll be today, I guess, probably.
Right.
June 14th, 42 Autumns. It's a project that I started earlier this year. You know, I don't know if I told you about this. Last time I was here, last year, I guess after Christmas, I'd been working on this project called Tupelo Blue for like 18 months. It's like the Southern California 1970s meets Babyface type thing, and I was getting nowhere with it. And I think I was just frustrated, and I had this epiphany. I was like, dude, you've been making the wrong album for 18 months. Like, you've got to pivot here because you're just running yourself into a wall. And so I gave myself 65 days to write, record, and do everything myself. And I went way over 65 days, but that's how it goes. So that's what's coming out tomorrow. I don't know, dude. I don't know if people are gonna hate it. I really don't even know if it's good, but it's me, and I'm just kind of relieved to get it out there. So that's where I'm at right now. That in the minivan.
Is that the adrenaline for an artist when you feel like you have something, but then you got to put it out and find out from everybody else?
I think that's a good question. I used to be really concerned. I think had I made this album like 4 or 5 years ago, I'd be a lot more nervous right now. But I've been reading this book, Rick Rubin's book, and it's a lot of like musings and stuff. But a lot of what he's kind of getting at is like, you have to just create art just for the sake of creating art. Like, you almost have to forget the audience and the listener and just make what you want to make. What happens after that is up to the universe and kind of out of your hands. And that's very much where I'm at right now with this project. Like, I made it. It comes out tomorrow. People may hate it. People may love it. We'll see.
Listen, we talked about this on the podcast, I think, with Mike Shimshak last episode. I think it was Mike. Liam Gallagher has a little clip out that I just saw.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. It goes in line with the Steve Jobs thing where people don't know what they want.
Right.
You have to give it to them. You have to put it out in the world, and they'll find out what they do and do not like or do and do not want. And that's what's so exciting about creating music, is that no matter what your feelings are, you have to give it to them so then they can find out if they're turned on to it.
Right. Yeah.
But man, what the anxiety must be.
Yeah, I saw that same clip. He's talking about Liam Gallagher's talking about Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
and like
there
how
you
the
go.
world didn't know if they wanted Jimi Hendrix, but they got Jimi Hendrix, and yeah, that's a good clip, man.
But you know, Jimmy is one of those guys that everyone now can learn his guitar licks and his riffs and his method, but creating it, I mean, what a mind fuck to be able to create something like that.
Yeah, it was like nothing else they'd ever heard. But first of all, the way he looked, the way he played, the sounds he was doing, it was just like raw, and it's yeah.
Who was it that left the stage and said, "Is he really that good?" Afraid to play in front of him?
Was it Clapton?
I think
one
so.
of those guys. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
I had Buck Johnson on here, and we were talking about some of those old rock records and just the feel of them. Mm-hmm. It's one of the reasons I like your music, because it just has a feel.
Oh, brother, thanks, man.
Speaking of that, is Long Way to Go on this album?
Long Way to Go is on that album, yeah. And a lot of it, I have you to thank for actually putting it on there, because we've talked about this song. It was written at least 10 years ago. I had to change one of the lyrics, because one of the lyrics was, I could take another 30 trips around the burning sun. Mm-hmm. I had to change it to I could take another 40 trips around the burning sun. That's how long ago the song was written.
Right.
And it just kind of sat on a shelf for a while. And when you write so many songs, sometimes they just get left behind. And I liked that song when we wrote it. I remember me and Joe West writing that and being like, that's pretty good, man. And he put a little video out of me playing it that day. I think you can go to YouTube and still see it. Mm-hmm. That's the day we wrote the song. And but it just never quite found a home until this project, and it feels so right on this project. So, but yeah, you kind of telling me how much it meant to you, and there were a couple other reactions like that I got. So Long Way to Go was on that project. Another song that's already out called Still Living is off that project, and Longer, which was a Dan Fogelberg song, that's also out, and that's on that project too.
Well, let me just tell the audience how deep this song Long Way to Go is lyrically. because I didn't know this until I was like looking at your social media page. Some guy put the lyrics on the back of one of his guitars.
What?
Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. Wait, I think I put the lyrics on that guitar, and it's TJ is his name, and I did this. I think this was during COVID or something, or maybe I sold them. I can't remember how this went down, but I would sell guitars and I say, whatever song you'd like to write the lyrics on, I'll put the lyrics on the guitar and ship it to you. So he chose Long Way to Go. That was another one of those people that loved that song that made me go, okay, there's something here. Like, don't just completely forget about this song. Yeah.
I like my version of the story better.
Yeah?
He just did it.
I thought you were going to say somebody had a tattoo.
Well, let me ask you
like
this. So if we put your album on an old-time record shop, what genre would it be under?
Oh, man, what a great question. I've been having this conversation with my wife recently because I feel like I don't know where I fit anymore, which I kind of like because now I feel like there's no preset expectations. I would put it in, if you could put it in any genre, I would put it in like 70s singer-songwriters. Like that's where I would put it. I wouldn't put it in country. Not today's country. I would put it in maybe 90s country a little bit, but it would still straddle that James Taylor, Dan Fogelberg, Eagles type genre right there. So whatever you call that, man.
Well, you might have just named some of your lists, but give me your top singer-songwriters of all time.
Ooh, let's go. Okay. Top singer-songwriters of all time. You got to have James Taylor. You got to have, see, this is when it gets weird for me because I consider like the Eagles, if you consider them one entity, you've got to put them in there, top singer-songwriters. You got to put Joni Mitchell and Carole King in there. I'm so 70s heavy right now. I don't know what that is for.
Yeah.
Let me try to go somebody modern. Man, I think Garth is a great singer-songwriter. People don't consider him a singer-songwriter, but he wrote most of his stuff. Just as much as James Taylor did. Some of James Taylor's hit songs he didn't write.
Yeah.
So I got to put Garth Brooks there. I don't know. What are yours?
Two people that I didn't hear in your list that I would definitely put in there are Townes Van Zandt and Steve Earle.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Those are two that come to mind that I didn't hear from you.
Man, they were never really on my radar. I mean, I know who they are now, but growing up, they were not on my radar at all. And I feel like they're a little more niche than some of the other people I named.
But James Taylor is...
Come on, man.
He's got to be the top.
He was in town last night and I didn't go see him and I'm still like regretting it. Yeah, I know, man.
I didn't know he was here.
He was here at the Bridgestone. Yeah.
Huh. Wait a second. A long time ago, I did know he was coming because I sent his manager an email asking if he'd come on the show.
Oh, come on, man.
Got to take it.
I respect the gumption of that. That's awesome.
I mean, just go after it.
Yeah.
Say, I don't have a huge
audience.
Go big
or go home, man.
It'll be doing more for me than it will for you. But
What's
come
the worst?
on.
Yeah, that's great. Did you get any response at all?
No.
Okay. That's all right.
So I just tell myself they never got it.
Yeah.
But that's just me being honest in public. Yeah.
Man.
But the singer-songwriter, it's hard to differentiate these singer-songwriters because it's kind of like what you're saying with Garth, who's the biggest country artist ever in some people's minds.
Yeah.
But he really does qualify as a singer-songwriter. I'm trying to think of Steve Earle was considered country, but to me, Steve Earle did like haikus every day for 6 months. Like that's his dedication to the craft, like a true wordsmith.
That's wild, dude.
So it's just funny, like how I don't know how we differentiate singer-songwriter because.
Yeah, I don't know. Even Michael Jackson, you could call a singer-songwriter. He wrote a lot of his stuff, but that's not. I think at some point you get too big. I think once you get above a certain threshold, you're not a singer-songwriter anymore. You're just a star.
Yeah.
I think the Beatles. Come on, man.
I think they were. Ever.
Yeah. But you don't consider them really singer-songwriters. Now you might consider their solo stuff singer-songwriter stuff. So yeah, I think, and maybe when you say singer-songwriter, maybe that is a musical genre too, because it depends on how they craft the music. I mean, you it's almost like when you say singer-songwriter, it's somebody with an acoustic guitar, or it's a Carole King with the piano, and then everything is kind of built around that. So still kind of sparse production. And once you just start getting bigger than that and pop, and you're selling out stadiums, I don't think you really call them singer-songwriters, even though to me they are.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at, is like how most artists are singer-songwriters, but they get put into these specific genres. I'll tell you another one, and this is a guy that if he ever submitted one of his songs to like NSAI, no one would say it's a hit, but he's one of the greatest songwriters ever, Sturgill.
Oh, Sturgill Simpson?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never had an artist that I'm such a big fan of that like challenges me to like have to go learn about a subject based on his lyrics, like Turtles All the Way Down.
Right.
Like he writes songs that like probably wouldn't translate to radio because people wouldn't understand what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah, he's a great singer too.
You ever heard Mercury in Retrograde?
I don't think so.
I listen to it every time before I come here.
Really?
Yeah, it gets me that happy.
Dude, remind me of that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, I will. I'll send it to you.
I didn't know the Turtles song until Yellowstone. They mentioned it in Yellowstone. I was like, what is that? What?
Do they really?
Turtles song? Sturgill Simpson? Yeah.
I'll tell you another one, Ryan Bingham.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a good gig. Man, that guy landed a great gig. He's great in that show. Have you watched Yellowstone?
Never watched one episode.
Okay, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Is it good?
I love it. Yeah.
I just binge watched The Gentleman. Have you seen it?
No, what is that?
It's about this guy that inherits a weed growing operation from his Duke dad.
What's it on?
Netflix.
Okay.
It's really good.
I can't keep up. There's so much stuff.
So let me ask you this. Who is your biggest musical influence ever?
I got to start at the beginning with when I was growing up. My father was a minister, and I was in church a lot. So it was a lot of gospel music, and we were pretty conservative on what music could and was played in my house. But we could get away with Elvis Presley because Elvis had a gospel aspect to him, and I think it was kind of tame at the time in the 90s, even though in the 50s, they would only show them from the waist up, And so I remember seeing Elvis for the first time. I remember hearing him, and I was like, what is happening, man? This is my guy. And I was a white kid in the South growing up in the church, and I just connected with who loved R&B, who loved country, who loved all these genres and loved them when they all got put together in this gumbo. And so, I mean, I got to say Elvis is my main influence. And then when I got to college here in Nashville is when I would loved Garth Brooks already. But through Garth kept talking about James Taylor, this guy that he loved. And that's kind of how I found James Taylor. And then once I kind of came to college, it was just, I was everything, man. I mean, all the great singer-songwriters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, this podcast is almost turning into an Elvis podcast.
Yeah.
We've had so many Elvis
I know
conversations.
You had Tony
and I the older I get, the more I fall in love with Elvis.
Good. Okay.
Like constantly. Yeah. Like, I mean, every time I listen to him, his music gets better and better and better.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song of Elvis's?
Ooh, man, okay. Yeah, we can just go down this rabbit hole. I think my favorite Elvis vocal performance is Love Me, Treat Me Like a Fool. Man, love that one. He did this, these tracks with Chips Moman and in American Studios. This was kind of, I guess, late 60s, early 70s, where he did Suspicious Minds, kind of that type stuff. But he's got a song called Kentucky Rain.
Oh, yeah.
You know Kentucky Rain? Dude? Yeah, I don't know why. I love that song. I think that song...
He sings the hell out of it.
He does, man. He kills that song. And it's like so over dramatic, but it works for Elvis. And I think it's got... Next time you listen to it, I think it's got the best tambourine part of all time. I don't know who's playing the tambourine. It's like the most perfect tambourine part. And... there's that. Gosh, man, I love the Sun Records stuff too, though, because it's so raw, and and he's so young, and like you talk about Jimi Hendrix coming out of nowhere and kind of blowing people's mind. I mean, this guy, I think he's the most important musical artist of all time. I think if you 100%. Take Elvis out of the equation, the building crumbles.
Yeah,
he was this emergence of really. It's when white music and black music came together, and they say he's the king of rock and roll. He didn't want that title. There were other people who came along who helped build rock and roll. Elvis was the catalyst that just opened the floodgates and changed the ball game.
We had this conversation with Dylan Weldon on the podcast about, is Elvis the biggest artist ever? Mm-hmm. And listen, I know it's subjective. Everyone has their own taste, but as far as the longest lasting legacy, it has to be Elvis.
He's in the conversation. I think you got to talk about Elvis. You got to talk Michael Jackson. You got to talk the Beatles. Who do you think's the biggest female artist of all time?
Maybe
Whitney.
Whitney.
Okay,
that's where I was going.
Yeah, Whitney.
Whitney Houston.
I love Whitney, man. Yeah. Whitney, I mean, you can talk about Mariah.
Stevie Nicks is in the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. I think she's top 10 for sure, female artist. Yeah. I think you've got Aretha from a talent perspective, man. I think Aretha. You can go back to Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, you used to listen to her and it's just flawless.
Ella's phenomenal. But with Elvis, I've always appreciated that he was not afraid to cross any racial boundaries. He incorporated everything into his music. And now the weirdness of it is in woke culture nowadays that people are criticizing him for it. It's some kind of form of cultural appropriation when I always have said it should be appreciation.
Yeah.
That's where we dim the lines and life becomes better for us all when we all appreciate each other.
Yeah. Calm down, internet. But yes, I'm with you. So I get defensive when I hear those people say that about Elvis because I feel like he was being authentic to himself.
Right.
That's exactly who he was. That's where he grew up. Yeah, he appreciated R&B music. He appreciated gospel that was being played in the black church, gospel being played in the white church. He appreciated country. He was booed off to Opry. Let's not forget. Like he was coming and being exactly who he was, dressing like he wanted to dress. He didn't know what he was doing. He was just being himself. And if someone's being authentic to themselves, how are they appropriating from anyone?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't like when those conversations come up. Now, there are examples of cultural appropriation we can talk about. I think Vanilla Ice, you can say, come on, because it wasn't authentic.
Yeah.
If you're not being authentic and you're trying to be something you're not, let's have that conversation. But when it comes to Elvis, no, I get defensive, man.
Yeah. No, I love him
I'll take
much.
the heat too. I'm a big fan.
Well, listen, think about what happened with Luke Combs. So Luke Combs takes Tracy Chapman's song to number one.
Right.
And all of a sudden it becomes this huge story that, a black female, she's the first black female to have a number one, and it's only because a white guy covered her song. First off, she wasn't the first black female to have a number one song on the charts because Alice Randall did that with X's and O's for Trisha Yearwood.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
it's a great song.
Point still is, people were making a big deal out of it, saying that, it's unfortunate that a white male had to take her song number one. So what happens at the Grammys? Tracy Chapman, who is known to be a recluse, comes out and performs with Luke.
Yeah.
It is so weird when we have society telling Tracy Chapman how she should feel about Luke taking her song to number one. And then she comes out, shuts them all up by saying, I support it.
Yeah.
I'm really happy he did it. It's like what happened with Dolly and Whitney. People give Dolly a hard time saying Whitney's version was better than yours. And she goes, honey, that's fine. I'm cashing the checks.
Take that paycheck, man. Take that paycheck all day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I respect Luke he loved the song. We grew up loving that song. I think he gave her flowers. He was acknowledging this is a Tracy Chapman song. I love it. I love her version. I'm honored to do this version. I think some people are saying that. I think it's a very small, loud minority
it's clickbait.
Of people. It's 100% clickbait. It starts conversations. We're having this conversation. People are probably going to watch this and have their opinions about our opinions on it. That's the age we live in, man.
Yeah.
But no, I think what a great thing for Tracy Chapman.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Revitalize her career, whether she wanted it or not. She's getting a great paycheck. And I think Luke did a great job on the song, too.
Oh, hell yeah.
So
Luke's great,
I'm all for it, man. Yeah.
Luke's one of those guys that he broke the mold of what we were getting spoon-fed.
Yeah.
And said, you don't have to have your chain wallet and be a 9 or a 10 on the handsome scale.
Yeah.
And he just came out and he's created a great career for himself.
Yeah, he's another guy just being authentic to himself.
For me, it just comes down to, look, we have racial issues. We have differences. Music is just the one place where I don't like it. Because music has always been the voice of humanity.
Yeah.
And when you see look at Ray Charles.
Oh, man. Let's go.
What did he do for country music when he said, I'm going to do a modern country sounds album?
Yeah, and it's so good. It's one of the best country albums of all time.
It's groundbreaking.
There's a clip, Taylor, I don't know if you've seen it. I'll send it to you. It's back when the Johnny Cash had the Johnny Cash show, and they filmed it at the Ryman Auditorium. And there's this episode where Ray Charles comes on, and Ray does Ring of Fire. Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire. And brother, it's one of my favorite things in the world. Just slay. And it's Ray's version. I mean, I can't believe it. This isn't more talked about. Like, I'll send this clip to you, but Ray Charles doing Ring of Fire on the Johnny Cash show at the Ryman Auditorium. It's amazing.
I wish we had Joey here. We'd pull it up here. But have you ever seen it when Johnny had Louis Armstrong on?
No. Oh, no.
I'm almost certain he did.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He came out there with the windpipes blowing.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah, but that's another person. You know, he had Dylan on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cash used to get criticized because he was all inclusive. I mean, it's not just from one. It's not just from the woke side. Sometimes it's from the more conservative side also, where people criticize trying to be inclusive. And I've just always hated when music gets pulled into that shit, because it is the one thing that I look to. I mean, my number one artist that I'd see if they were alive is Otis Redding.
Oh yeah.
For all the country I love and all the rock I love, give me that Otis Redding voice.
And he died at like 26, right? 28?
I think it was 33.
Oh, he's older than I thought.
Yeah.
But he came out the gate sounding like an 80-year-old man when he sang. He sounded like a man who'd lived a lifetime.
Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
They just did a documentary about it. And luckily I told the story to Dylan on the podcast, and then I saw the new Stax documentary that's out on, I think, HBO. And luckily my story was right, because it had been a long time since I'd heard it. But just the whole story about how he was discovered.
I don't know that. I don't know
the only way he was discovered was he was living in Macon, and there was an artist who needed to go to Memphis to record at the Stax, recording studio. So he becomes the guy's valet. The guy pays him to drive him up there. So Otis is driving this other artist up there, gonna unload all his gear for him, do everything for him. But while he's there, he starts hounding people like Steve Cropper and the label owner Jim. Just let me sing once. And he does These Arms Are Mine. And that was the day that Otis Redding was born.
That's probably my favorite Otis song, man. Yeah.
Can you imagine being in the studio, the first moment that you hear Otis Redding's voice singing These Arms Are Mine?
Yeah, just those first couple notes.
Yeah, they tell the story. They were in the control booth and they ran out as he said the first few words and we're yelling, "Get in here."
Yeah.
Everyone get in here.
Amazing, man.
But Stax is a fascinating story.
Yeah.
Have you watched the documentary?
No, I haven't. I know it's on my list. I got a long list, man. I can't keep up with all the great material out there.
They basically took the company from him. From the guy, Jim Stewart.
Who's they?
Well, first it was Columbia Records, then it was the government.
Oh, I don't know any of this. No.
And
okay.
It's funny because the main character of the Columbia story is Jerry Wexler, I think is his name.
I know. Yeah, I've read his book.
Yeah. And he's also the guy who's told the guy in Muscle Shoals. Can't believe
Bill.
The guy who started the whole Muscle Shoals.
Yeah, I know.
I can't believe.
Yeah.
So we need Joe here.
Yeah.
Anyway, I can't remember his name, but anyway, he had a altercation with Aretha's husband or boyfriend, and Jerry told him, "Screw you, I'm never coming back to Muscle Shoals."
Oh man, dude. Okay, I see. I read Jerry's book, and it's a great book. I actually wrote a song based off. He had a picture in his book of, I guess, his ex-wife or something. He said, "This was my wife of something years. She was a great love." I remember I wrote a song called "Great Love" based off that book. But I think Jerry told those stories differently through his rose-colored glasses, probably. So yeah. But he talks about working with Elvis back in the day and working with Colonel Tom Parker, and what just a shit show it was. It was crazy, man.
Oh,
all this cash. He talks about after one show they had just a table full of cash, and Colonel Tom Parker took his cane and just threw it right in the middle and moved half of it and said, "This is your half and this is mine." It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
Being alive back in those days would have been fascinating. Memphis must have been fascinating with Stax and Sun.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
I wanted to shine some light on something else because we've talked about it before, but I want to continue to promote their organization. Tell me about Songwriting with Soldiers.
Oh, yeah, man. Songwriting with Soldiers is an organization where it's exactly what it sounds like. Songwriters who meet, spend time with soldiers, listen to their stories, and craft songs out of it. And that we work with, I'm lucky enough to be a part of it, honored to be a part of it. We work with Boulder Crest. I was just in an event in upstate New York where we worked with Wounded Warriors. We actually did a couples retreat. So veterans, sometimes both were veterans, but sometimes maybe just one of the participants was a veteran. And we met with them, and you hear their stories and their struggles and where they're at, and you help them write a song, man. And sometimes it's like, they talk a lot about trying to get outside yourself so that you can see what's going on. If you're too inside of your own head, you get lost in the demons and the darkness and the chaos, right? If you can find a way to step outside of that and see it from a different perspective, it can help. It can help. Yeah. And so sometimes by writing a song, You take the struggles, you take the stories, and you get to put it here, and you get to look at it and go, oh, okay, I kind of see. Or, I have a sense of comfort, a sense of relief. But it's amazing, man. It's intense. First of all, just the logistics of being a songwriter, and people saying, hey, you got to go in this room, meet somebody for the first time that's not a songwriter, listen to their stories. You've got 2 hours, come out of it with a song. That's intense enough. The fact that it's veterans with their unique struggles and situations that they're coming from, now you got to do it with that. And the responsibility of doing a good job with that, that's a whole nother ballgame. But it's also like, it's so rewarding. And everybody that I've gotten to meet that's involved, whether it's on the Songwriting with Soldiers side, the songwriters and the administration, everybody who keeps that organization running, or that worked with the veterans or the veterans themselves, it's just amazing.
I wonder when we're going to start taking soldiers more seriously and the veteran issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you always hear about it, right? And you always see veterans on the streets and stuff. And you're like, how do we let this happen? But when you hear, obviously the suicide rates are incredibly high. I mean, and when you just hear their stories, and I've heard some stories, and you keep them private because it takes a lot for them to share these things sometimes. But you hear what they're going through and the choices they made in their past that they're trying to deal with when they were following orders. They had to do smart things. Or, I mean, the amount of fear that they have to deal with in some of those situations that it's hard to shake. Yeah, I mean, we should be putting way more resources into just helping. And I think that's why I like Songwriting with Soldiers, because I don't know what else I could do for veterans besides giving money, but I can't trust where that money's going. I don't know what it's doing. But being able to use the gift of songwriting to help veterans in that way is selfishly, it's rewarding for me too.
Yeah, and I love that you do it, because donating money doesn't put skin in the game. Anybody with $1 million can write $1,000 check and not necessarily worry about it.
Yeah.
And they can clear their conscience. But when you get on a flight and you go to New York to sit with these guys, I think that's beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing, man.
And my criticism of all of this is we have $80 billion to send to Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan, and maybe they need it, maybe they don't, but that's $80 billion that could easily be going to people who went and did what they were told by our government.
Right. Yeah.
But I honestly think that our government look at organizations like Songwriters with Soldiers, which God bless them and the work they do, but they go, okay, they'll handle that. We can be more focused on this. How about you focus on it with Songwriting with Soldiers? How about you treat these people with respect and start to realize these numbers are not sustainable?
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, there was 100,000 fentanyl deaths last year, I believe, ODs, and a significant number of those are probably war veterans.
I wouldn't doubt it.
The alcohol deaths are probably war veterans.
Oh, you hear a lot of stories of substance abuse. Whatever they can do to quiet the storms in their mind, right? To help them forget what's going on, whether it's fentanyl or alcohol. I mean, there's a lot of alcohol abuse, obviously. I hear you, man. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just try to help where I can.
Yeah.
Which is write songs. And for people watching the podcast, if you do want to help, Songwriting with Soldiers is a great organization. Go look them up. They are a charity that does just an amazing work. You can actually go to their website. You can hear some of these songs. Go to their socials. They post some of the songs that get written. And we've actually got some cool things in the works that I don't, well, just keep following them. There may be some broader ways these songs are going to get out in the universe soon, which will be very cool.
It was cool. Last time you came on, I clipped you talking about Songwriting with Soldiers, and both soldiers that you wrote with commented under it.
Oh, that's cool, man.
And that's, I'm always hesitant with some of these nonprofit organizations. If you go in and do some research on how much they spend on administrative costs, like the head of
I've seen these things. It's crazy, man.
The head of like what's the sad pet video?
Oh, PETA?
Commercial? PETA? Not PETA.
Oh, ASPCA?
ASPCA. Yeah. They have like over 100 executives that make over $100,000 a year, and the top guy makes like $2 million.
Yeah.
But getting to learn more about Songwriter Soldiers from you has told me that they're actually doing the work.
Oh yeah, and
they're not just a fundraising organization who's buying mansions.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. They've got a small little office here. It's led by just genuine people. I wouldn't involve myself with something if I thought, okay, they're taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah,
they're trying to make money off of the plight of soldiers and veterans for our country. Absolutely not. No, these are people. We're coming in. We're just trying to help in what way we can. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm honored, man. To be a part of it, and it's something. One of my favorite things that's happened to my life recently.
Well, I'm proud of you for doing it, brother.
Thank you, brother.
I love it. Yeah. I love that you do that. That's probably one of the most important parts of your career right now.
I think so. It's given me meaning because a lot of times, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been in Nashville 24 years. I've had ups and downs. I've had some pretty good highs and fun successes, and I've had some times where I'm just looking around going, this is a waste of my time. Like, I'm wasting my time and energy putting out this music and doing stuff. But being able to take a gift of songwriting and going in and doing this with Songwriting with Soldiers, if I did nothing else and this is all I did with music, I would be very content with that.
If you weren't doing music,
oh man,
what would your career choice be?
Okay, I probably would have gone to the military, so that I could one day be president. You and I have a love for West Wing, right?
Right.
So back when I was in my early 20s watching West Wing, I was like, I want to be president one day. So I would have either gone that route and try to be president, or I would have tried to be a professional golfer. And I'm terrible at golfer, but I love golf, and I think that's got to be the greatest gig in the world.
Wow. Yeah. So shout out to Aaron Sorkin. He is the best writer ever.
That's unbelievable, man.
And if I ever could have someone that would write the dialogue for my life and how all my conversations would go, I'd call Aaron Sorkin and be like, will you just write my life?
That's so good, man.
The tempo with all of his stuff, whether you're talking about the Social Network movie, all the way back to A Few Good Men, The Newsroom on HBO, which
was great. That was really
amazing.
Great. Yeah.
It didn't catch on, but it was amazing.
Did you see Live at Studio 60? It was one season. It was kind of like a Saturday Night Live
on
type
NBC?
thing. I think so. Yeah. I've got the DVD box case. Like, anybody still uses DVDs, but I can't get rid of them. I've got all the West Wing series
I have
still.
The whole blue box.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, it's such a great show. What about you? What would you do?
Well, this wasn't my childhood dream, but I'm doing what I want to do right this second.
Okay, what a great answer. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I want to be a songwriter.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From a young age, I would like just copy Bon Jovi or Travis Tritt lyrics.
Yeah.
And that's how I taught myself how to write, and then started learning the guitar. So, but yeah, it's just too much for me. I'm just not as good as you guys.
It's never too late. It's never.
A couple
of
NSAI ones to watch lists, but nothing special.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. Well,
but the great thing about songwriting is you don't have to be a professional songwriter. It brings me as much joy doing it at home as it would if I was doing it at the Bluebird.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be president nowadays?
Not anymore.
Okay.
No. Let's say, I think in an alternate universe, I think I would have joined the military out of high school, which I almost joined the Air Force. Did I tell you about? This next story I'll tell you. And I think, I probably would have gone that route.
Wow.
And actually recently, so during COVID, a friend of mine is in the United States Air Force Band. And during COVID, the stages were shut down. I was lost, man. I didn't know what I was going to do. And we didn't know how long this was going to last. And just, I was looking for something to be a part of. And my friend reached out and she said, hey, I know this is crazy, but we're looking for a new lead singer for the United States Air Force Band based out of DC. Are you interested? And my immediate thought was, absolutely, I was about to turn 40, which you're going to age out of the military at that point. And I told Christina, I said, this is crazy, right? I shouldn't think about this at all, right? We would have to move to DC. I would have to go to boot camp. I would have to officially join the Air Force. And she kind of looked at me. She said, I wouldn't shut that door yet. I said, what? And I thought about it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, the door has opened to me. It is up to me whether I want to walk through it or not. And I said, I'm gonna take this as far as it goes. So I went through the whole process, made it to the final round, met with the recruiter, did everything involved to joining the Air Force, went to DC, to Joint Base Anacostia, which is where the group is based out of, which is right on the Potomac, right? You can see the Washington Monument from there. And it was me and two other guys who were already enlisted. and went through the audition, and I did not make it. I don't know which already enlisted guy made it, but they were actually, we had the paperwork ready to go because they were going to have to rush me through boot camp because I had to start before I turned 40. And I was
about to ask.
I was going to turn 40 in boot camp if that had that been the case, but it didn't happen. But it almost did, which has been a wild story, man. I would still be in it right now living in DC.
Holy cow.
I know, man. Yeah.
We allow soldiers until they're 40?
You can start. So this is the Air Force. I don't know about anybody else. This is the Air Force, and you can start boot camp. You can turn 40 in boot camp. You can't be 40 and start boot camp. I think you turn 40, you're actually aged out. But yeah, you could start it. I was going to join at 39.
Bro, I bet we're getting close to that. We're going to have to make the age higher.
We may open the doors a little. Well, you got to think. We're also. I say this. We're healthier at 40. I feel like now than maybe we were back then. So I think there's definitely some room. They're going to open. I mean, with the shortages they've got to open the requirements a little bit.
Yeah, they're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm done with that route, but that was close, man.
So you were going to have to get chosen to be the singer and then go to do boot camp.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
That is
I'd been, dude. I was,
hilarious.
and I was like in
What's
that
the
period.
gig pay?
What's that?
What's the gig pay?
I was going to be what's called an E6 level, which I would be a technical sergeant when I right out of boot camp is what I would have been. It didn't pay enough to live in DC comfortably. I'll tell you that. You know, that's a tough place to live. But man, I'd watched all the videos of what basic training was like. I was got to shave my head. You're going to join officially because otherwise they're not going to respect you. You know, you've got to at least go through that with everybody else.
Is this the part where we can add AI with Stevenson bald-headed so we can see what it would look
I'm
like?
not that far away, actually.
You got a lot more hair than I do.
One day soon, brother.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
dude.
man.
I had no idea that you were almost Air Force.
This was 2021. I think is when I went to the audition, November 2021. Yeah, because I took the family with me to DC. We had a great trip in DC, and it wasn't meant to be. Yeah, but I can say I'd rather that have happened than me look back and going, I wonder what would have happened had I taken that route. What kind of opportunities would I have had? So, yeah.
Well, did the people that allegedly went to the moon, were they Air Force pilots originally? Ben?
You talking about like Armstrong?
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that.
And Buzz
Ben
Aldrin.
doesn't think we went to the moon.
Are you one of those guys? I don't want to go down that route.
We don't have to go down that route.
Okay. I don't.
We can save that for afterwards.
Here's what I will say. I used to think that conspiracy theory was crazy. Now I do have a couple questions that I can't seem to get good answers for. I still think we went to the moon. I mean, but
we didn't go.
We can talk later. We'll talk later. Dude, that's a deep rabbit hole, brother.
Talk now. We got time.
No, I don't.
I'm tapping out.
That's the only I had to. So I love to do this to Ben because Ben is actually one of the smartest guys I've ever met.
Yeah.
Ben doesn't have opinions. Ben has arguments with facts and at least what I would call plausible information.
Well, let me preface this.
We'll leave him out of it.
My grandfather worked for NASA, so I have a tendency to trust what NASA says, right or wrong. So we'll save this for the next podcast, man.
Your grandpa also told you could be president one day. No, but I love it. I do think that just between me and you that there was parts of it that were faked to make it look better.
I get the motive. Here's the thing. I understand the motive at the time of why we might have faked it in the space race with Russia. My other question is, see, I didn't want to go this way. My other question is, I don't know why we haven't been back. Why there was such a long gap. We went there and then we haven't really been back.
You know, we lost all the telemetry data, right?
See, this is...
NASA they just lost it. They misplaced it.
I think we went.
Because going to the moon wasn't a big deal, so why do you need to hold on to it? I'm
deferring to you.
I have to be honest with you. I have no opinion on it. I just know that I was driving in my car one time listening to Donald Rumsfeld say, we faked it. And then to put that in context, it was, we had to go to a sound studio and shoot some of it.
So I understand.
Out of the fear that...
a sound studio in California. And what's his name?
I think it was London. Kubrick? Stanley Kubrick?
I've heard the Kubrick thing. Well,
yeah.
there's an actor, Jared Leto, lives in a place that they supposedly did some filming at. Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway,
I know. I mean, I know I know the conspiracy theory and why people say it. I tend to still think that yes, we did. In fact,
but
man,
NASA's fascinating.
does it? Here's a question for you. Does it matter?
Not really.
You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like when you talk about how the pyramids were built. I mean, however they were built, they were built.
They were built, sure. Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's fun to talk about.
Fun to talk about.
And it's fascinating to try to figure it out. But
I always ask myself like that. But the only reason it does matter is that we would find out that we've been lied to all these years.
Yeah.
But have you ever?
Wouldn't be the first time, though.
Have you ever heard the Lewis Black bit where he talks about when we went to Iraq under the pretense of weapons of mass destruction?
No.
And then he
I can only
goes,
imagine, though.
And then he goes, but then you got there and you told us you were lying. Why did you stop lying? I'm comfortable with my government lying to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love
ignorance is bliss sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I had to ask you what your I had to get into that little tangent with you just to see where you stand.
I still don't know where I stand. I think I stand that we landed on the moon.
Do you know how beautiful I think that
Don't make
opinion
this
is?
don't make this the teaser clip either. Like my opinions on did we land on the moon?
No, but I want to compliment you on that because I am totally comfortable telling people, yeah, I have opinions, but I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Most people are really committed to having their idea of what happened. They know. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I always try to ask people, I don't know what someone's top 5 albums are. And I probably won't agree with them, but I like to ask them what their top 5 albums
what
are.
are your top 5 albums? Have you talked about this? I know your other guests have talked about it.
I don't have favorite albums. To be honest with you, as crappy as my answer is, it's so rare for me to find a great album. Like I love artist catalog like Otis Redding, Sturgill Simpson, Waylon Jennings, Leonard Skinner and Allman Brothers. I can listen to anything that they've put out. But when it comes to albums, they're all so random. Like I loved the Nirvana Unplugged album.
Oh yeah.
But I wasn't a big Nirvana fan.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Yeah.
I loved when you get into the late aughts, I was scared what was going to happen with country music. Zach Brown's The Foundation was a great album from beginning to end. Pistol Annie's in 2011, Hell on Hills.
Yeah.
That album wasn't made for me. I think it's one of the greatest albums ever for country music because of what it did. But then we can go back to Red-Headed Stranger.
Sure.
Alan Jackson, Everything I Love.
Yeah.
Travis Tritt, It's All About the Change. You know, it's a great album that if you want to work out to it, Bon Jovi, New Jersey.
Which one is that?
It's got Living in Sin, Lay Your Hands on Me, Bad Medicine.
Oh, I know Bad Medicine. Okay.
It's also got a good country feel because he does the song Stick to Your Guns.
Okay.
And he does that little rough recording of Ride, Cowboy, Ride.
I don't know.
That's like an old, I want you to do something. I want you to do an album one day of voice memos.
Okay. Why?
I want you to do a Stevenson Everett album called Voice Memo.
That's just literally voice memos?
Literally voice memos.
Okay, it's funny you say this because on the new album, comes out tomorrow, 42 Autumns, I actually have, one of the tracks is a voice memo that a mentor of mine, his name was Fred Allen, just a man I adored. Long story short, he in my hometown, he started this organization called Thomasville Music and Drama Troupe, and I was very involved with it. And one of my just biggest musical pieces in my life was being a part of this group. The theme song where we end every spring show was called No Time at All. It's from the musical Pippin. And the day he died, I remember I took out my phone. I was just singing that song because it just brings back memories. And I recorded a little bit in my phone. And then thinking, when I was looking at the album as a whole, I was like, I want to do some sort of tribute to him. And I was like, oh, I'll cover No Time at All. And I went in the studio and I was trying to do it real professionally. And I did a couple great recordings and technically they were great. But I kept coming back to the damn voice memo because it was so honest and so real in the moment. So on the album, there's like a 45-second clip of me singing No Time at All. And I put some campfire stuff in the background to give it some ambiance. But it's an actual voice memo.
That's awesome.
And but it just worked because it was honest.
You know, when you were on here first time, we talked about Jay Joyce using the spoken voice memo from Eric.
Yeah.
I look at your recording of Long Way to Go that y'all did as the work tape for when you and Joe wrote it. Shout out to Joe West, one of my favorite songwriters. I was
with Joe yesterday, actually.
Yeah. I look at Oliver Anthony doing, what was the song called in the woods?
Richmond,
North of Richmond.
Yeah.
he just does that, him and his guitar and his vocal, and he's got a mic that's got a little reverb on it. There was another artist. You ever heard of an artist named Cameron Marlowe?
Oh yeah, his album came out recently, right?
Yeah,
he's got some great songs.
Yeah,
on
he
there.
does. But I don't know his whole catalog. But a while back, he did a voice memo and he put it out. Something like "Take Me Back to Carolina," and he was kind of voicing his frustration. So anyway, I say all that to say I really think one of the big next things is going to be an artist that has the chops as a guitar player and a vocalist like you do. That's going to say, you know what, I'm going to show you who I really am when I'm at home playing.
Yeah.
And I think if someone comes out and does like a voice memo album,
That's interesting.
Put it through something. Give yourself a little verb maybe if you need it.
A little compression. I get it. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I just think that there's starting to become this hunger for authenticity.
100%.
And
Yes.
I think it might work.
I had this conversation with a friend of mine named Don Byer, actually, who's a great singer-songwriter. We were talking about AI. And, I know you've talked about the Randy Travis thing on your podcast and how with AI, musicians, some people they're scared that they can just make music, our job is done. I think the opposite. I think the fact that AI's come in and making these computer-generated songs, the pendulum is going to swing back the other way, and people are going to crave those authentic experiences similar to a voice memo that's created from a human soul.
Absolutely.
With human emotions, with a human story. That's going to end up winning. And especially if you can continue to teach yourself how to play, continue to be a great musician, there's going to be fewer and fewer of us. And so supply and demand. I'm with you. I think that's a great idea.
I've just always, the reason I was thinking about it on the car right over here, I was like, I wonder if I should say that to Steven.
Oh, yeah.
Stevenson. Because
call me Steven, brother. No, don't waste your time on that last syllable.
Because you honed your craft on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have, as often as you played, it was only sometimes you had full band. A lot of the times it was just you on that stage. Yeah. So you've honed your craft enough to where I think you're one of the people that could do it.
Oh, well, I'd love to do it. Yeah. And actually on this new album, I mean, I tried to, and I have a whiteboard in my studio where I type little inspirational quotes or just little things I'm talking to myself. Like I just wrote the other day, take beautiful chances. Cause sometimes I worry too much about what people think. I'm like, no. If you're making this choice and taking this chance from a beautiful place, it's the right choice. So take beautiful chances. Stuff like that is written on there. But I also have honest beats perfect. And so there's a track on the new album where it's just me and it's a live take. It's me and the acoustic guitar. I've got 2 mics and I did one take and that's it. And I put it out. And it's all I can do not to go back and add stuff and redo it. And I was like, no. Trust it. That's you're giving somebody a real moment. And that's all those old albums that we like. Yeah. Everything was recorded live. There's mistakes. I was listening to the Beatles the other day. Gary Bird just gave me this book that he wrote. It's fiction Beatles story. Anyway, it got me listening to the Beatles. And so I was listening to them and you'd be surprised how many mistakes there are in there that just make the song because you feel the energy and the rawness of it. So I think going forward in my musical life, that's more where I'm going to be. And the voice memo thing may be a great idea. I mean, that kind of falls into it. Plus it costs nothing, right? It keeps your album costs way down. So
I think it'd be fascinating because I honestly, I didn't think of it how you stated it, but with AI, everything's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And it's not even going to have the human touch on it because it's not like, Dre sitting there programming a beat. It's literally just telling it what you want and it's going to give it to you. Perfect tempo. It's going to come out sounding amazing and people are going to be like, man, that's great. That's great. Yeah. But when I listen to the Beatles, when I listen to Elvis, you hear that little crackle in the background, someone moving around.
Even some of those great Stevie Wonder records, man, like you think he's flawless. He's not. He's incredible, but he is in the moment and giving everything he's got, and that's what makes it so real. You
know who does it nowadays is Dave Cobb.
Yeah, that's what he specializes in. Yeah,
when he takes Chris Stapleton or Sturgill Simpson, or Jason Isbell, and he puts them all in the same room. He produced Travis Tritt's last album, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he puts them all in the same room, and you can hear the banter sometimes. Sometimes he leaves that in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather have that 8 out of 10 than anything that's 10 out of 10 and perfectly sounding.
I'm with you. Yeah. I'd rather have, again, honest over perfect. I'd rather have authentic over inauthentic.
Yeah.
And I think inauthentic is AI, whether it sounds great or not. And if I was a pop artist, I may be more concerned if I did. But the fact that I'm able to write my own songs, play my own instruments, I don't worry about it as much as some other people do.
It doesn't have to be critical of songs, but when you were playing on Broadway, were there a handful of songs that you were like, please don't request?
Yeah, there were. I mean, I had a rule. I've never played Wagon Wheel. Nothing against Wagon Wheel, but like it was just everybody played it, and I just didn't like play it. I didn't sound good singing it. Anyway, that was one of them. I wouldn't do Sweet Home Alabama for SEC football reasons.
Cut that thing off.
When I say that,
do you know where I'm from?
I know.
I knew that was meant for me.
There were a couple $100 bill in the tip bucket moments where I would play it, but I wouldn't play the whole thing. I didn't play a lot of new stuff. I kind of just played what I played because that's what I liked. I specialized in 90s country and James Taylor stuff. That was kind of my bread and butter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
I wouldn't do Chicken Fried. No offense to that song. That song was not for me. And it's also one of those, I like to try to do stuff that other people weren't doing downtown. And that's kind of where my audience got built. And everybody, you could hear Chicken Fried and Wagon Wheel in any of the bars. You know, you could hear Cruise or all that FGL stuff. And I just was not doing that stuff.
I love that I just said one of my favorite albums is The Foundation. And then you said that.
Is Chicken Fried off of that album?
Yeah.
Oh, they had the other song. I like Free. Is Free off that album? Free? That's a great song.
He does that with Into the Mystic.
Yeah, I know. Which
he does it live, and I didn't know, but Keith was here and told me they did that in the studio, but they couldn't get it clear with Van Morrison.
Oh, I could believe that. Van Morrison seems like that would happen with him.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Van Morrison live?
He looks like a little leprechaun.
I saw him live, and I told people that if I could see any dead artists, I had a list of 5, and Van was on the list, and they were like, he ain't dead. So I went and saw him at the Ryman, and it was the most uncomfortable concert I've ever been to. He's drunk and cussing people out.
Oh, I hate that.
He played Glory, and that's all that I knew.
Man, Van Morrison, Moondance, I think it's the album.
Great.
It's just a great album. That's got Into the Mystic and all that
Baby,
stuff.
Please don't go.
Man.
Well, that's you because you like Louisiana. That has Please Don't Go Down to New Orleans on it, doesn't it?
I don't know.
I think it does.
Check, yeah.
Anyway. Well, listen, man.
How did we do? Are we up? Well, we got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We hitting our time?
What does Stevenson Everett want to talk about?
I was going to ask you a quick question. We were talking about albums. Mm-hmm. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially with this album coming out tomorrow. Are albums relevant anymore? Is it just a singles game again? Is it worth the time to take to make an album anymore? Because I feel like we talked long form versus short form earlier. And I feel like our attention spans just don't want albums anymore. Do you feel that way?
Yeah. I think as an artist, you need to do an album.
I love the idea of albums. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
But even absent of whatever the audience wants, I think you need to sit down and put together the 10 that you want to tell your story with. Mm-hmm. I think those 10, and this is for any artist, I think those 10, those 11, those 30, now we got people doing triple albums. They're going to resonate with your loyal fan base. And you can't resent the fact that 80% of your market is only going to buy 1, 2, or 3 of them. But for the people that really connect with you as an artist, whether it's Luke Combs, Stevenson Everett, or let's see, who's a good legacy act, or Willie Nelson, putting out, every one of y'all need to do an album, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think it'll be a long time before I make another album. I think everything I've got slated next is just singles. But there'll come a time where I have another story to tell, and I'll probably be in the headspace for an album. Maybe it's that voice memo album.
Yeah.
We've been talking about.
I can't wait. I hope I've inspired an idea. But no, I just look at it like, when it comes to you, I've known you for so long.
Yeah.
I want to sit down and hear the songs that you wanted to write and you wanted to play.
That's good to hear.
I mean, you referenced Rick Rubin earlier. This is what Rick gets at. You've got to go on your journey and not worry about what I think, but then but then give it to me so you can find out what I think.
Right.
And I want to hear all your stuff. I know I've seen your daughters, met your daughters, know your wife. So when you talk about it, so it's different for me listening, but I like to listen to all of it. But I think your fans want to hear everything. But then there's also people that are like, never heard this guy, but I love this one song.
Right.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. I think it's a balance. I think it's both,
Yeah.
But
everything you do is great. So if I can look at the audience and say anything, buy the whole damn album.
just listen to it. That's all I'm asking.
Are
Just
you doing albums outside of streaming? Like, do you print any?
I had, with this latest one, I have not gone down the road of doing any CDs for sure. I may do some vinyl stuff. People still buy vinyl, but man, I literally have 1,000 CDs sitting in my garage right now from past albums that nobody's going to buy, and I can't bring myself to throw away.
Wow.
So, I mean, cars don't have CD players. Speaking of buying a new minivan, right? There's no CD players anymore in cars. Computers don't come with disc drives. So how do you even listen to one? The people at the end of the CD game with me, people were buying them so they could get an autograph on it. That was really the only thing. And I would gladly sell them a $10 CD and put my autograph on it. But I think it's a streaming game. I don't like that because it pays terribly. I think it hurts, especially songwriters. I feel bad for songwriters coming to town right now. They're just songwriters because getting paid off of streaming is terrible. And I don't want to speak bad about the big streaming companies because I use them. But I think they need to do a better job of taking care of the songwriters.
God, yeah.
Songwriters and veterans.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I really hope that Songwriting with Soldiers will start putting some of those songs on streaming.
So that seems to be where it's headed.
Okay.
Yeah. There are those that know more than me, but that's the vibe I'm getting.
Which
is exciting. And I think it's
Yeah.
great for the brand.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Let those guys earn a little income off the song.
100%. Yeah.
And I think those songs will resonate because they're written from a true place with y'all facilitating that.
Even if just the soldiers listen to them. If it's just soldier to soldier, I think them sharing their stories with each other is so important.
If Toby Keith can get as big as he got singing about soldiers,
Yeah.
having not been one, I don't think, then these guys that are writing out their feelings and their experiences, if they want it publicly, I know it's delicate. So if they want it public, I think it'd be amazing and everyone would rush to buy.
For sure, man.
One, out of liking the song. Two, and more importantly, just supporting them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother.
You're a good man. I appreciate you for everything
you're
you
a good
do,
man.
brother.
I appreciate you letting me come back. Round 2.
Well, listen, I hope we have round 3, 4,
Let's do it.
5,
Let's
6
do it.
over the next few years.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Congrats
you,
on
Stevenson
everything,
Everett.
man. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you, brother. All right. Bye, y'all.